Do not message me if you're not a serious inquiry. I spent over $4,500 on my PC, and I'm only asking for $2,800 to $3,800, whichever one you feel more comfortable with, for the whole PC. Message me if you're a serious inquiry. Otherwise, keep on scrolling. Trust me, this one gets better.
If you're upset about that inconsiderate Windows activation watermark plaguing your screen, snag an OEM license. SCDKey makes it simple. You have one in a few seconds for a little over $10, then click here, 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 and then here, paste your activation key, and you can kiss that watermark goodbye. And be sure to use my new offer code GSL for a 12% discount on your order.
So this ad is a doozy. Nearly $3,000 asking price, older hardware, and ridiculous price justifications. So let's go ahead and break this stuff down. Custom built gaming PC. I will only accept cash. I will not accept checks. I will not accept cashier's checks. Okay, that's cool. I totally get that, right? I mean, I could write a check for any amount of money, but it doesn't mean I have to actually have that money in my account. Worst case, you can meet at a bank to ensure the check actually clears. If you're comfortable with checks, I would steer clear of them. But anyway, the remainder of the ad lists computer components and some pretty insane and frankly irrelevant prices. Starting from the top, we've got a Corsair Carbide Air 740, $149.99. Yeah, okay. This is a 4-year-old case by this point, released way back in 2016. Listing MSRP seems a bit ridiculous. Whatever, I guess you're trying to tell us how much you paid for these things? I don't know, we'll see. The MSI Z270 Gaming M7 was a great board back in the day. Again, keywords back in the day, but that's just it, right? And let's put it this way. I could buy an Asus ROG Maximus 9 Extreme Z270 board with an integrated water block, brand new, mind you, for 150 bucks. So what's up with this? So let's assume then that the seller's argument is, well, these aren't current prices, these were new prices, this is what I paid. Well, to that I say, what the heck is the point? Why should it matter how much you paid for this, especially if we're talking about a 4-year difference? These products are old, they're dated, and the tech market moves fast. It takes no prisoners, so listing new prices to justify your inflated asking price in this ad is 100% futile. Although I'm sure you're expecting some naive person to fall for it. But let's continue. Core i7 7700K. That's 4 cores, 8 threads, Kaby Lake 14nm plus, I guess, architecture, and a list price of 349 bucks. And sure, maybe new, but you'll very soon be able to snag a Ryzen 3 3100 with the same number of cores and same number of threads and similar IPC for literally $100. In fact, one of the only real advantages of the 7700K is clock speed, but you'll need a more expensive motherboard to even take advantage of additional overclocking. Not the case with Zen 2. Thank you, AMD. And I guess another angle of approach here could be, well, for 350 bucks, I could buy a killer 8-core, 16-thread Ryzen 7 3700X or 3800X. Like, I could buy something that is considerably more powerful, maybe not for games, but it can do a lot more than a 4-core chip from 2016. And look, I'm using Ryzen to really prove the point that tech moves very fast, right? Just a few years ago, 4 cores, right? 4 was the sweet spot, and that isn't the case anymore. Prices are certainly reflecting it. And don't let inflated asking prices on eBay convince you otherwise, right? I get this quite a bit, people point this out. Intel chips on the used market have ridiculous resale values, but it's less of an indication of power and more an indication of brand loyalty and optimization in certain segments. So people will pay more for them for those use cases. But I would strongly recommend you stay away from overpriced Intel listings on eBay. Now this next one's pretty great. 64 gigs of Corsair Vengeance DDR4, a ton of RAM, right? More than gamers will ever need. And yet, it's being advertised as a gaming PC. Content creation, absolutely, you can take advantage of the extra memory, but not games, so what's the point? Anyway, he says he paid nearly $500 for 64 gigs. But again, who cares? Memory price fixing plagued builders a few years ago. That's his problem, not yours. You aren't buying this PC 4 years ago. And especially when seen in light of the fact that 64 gigs of pretty fast DDR4 today can be purchased for a few $100s less, this makes no sense. Heck, even updated 4x16 Vengeance memory kits are selling for under 400 bucks. So why bother with this figure? Again, is it supposed to guilt someone into feeling obligated to meet your asking price? And by the way, if you add up each of these prices, the sum is over $4,000, which I assume is consistent with the purchase price he mentioned higher up. But again, we have no proof apart from his word, and I'm sorry, but I have trust issues with people who insist on charging way over market value for dated hardware. That's yeah, just me. Not that there's anything wrong with this combination of hardware. I don't want to, give you guys that impression, but at $2,800, something is seriously wrong. I could build something significantly better for $2,800. Speaking of which, what's with this SLI GTX 1080 bundle here? I mean, they look pretty cool. That's one of the only reasons, in my opinion, to buy 2 cards. Kind of fills up the extra space, but you'll be extracting only about 50% of that second card's potential in most games. I mean, some games won't even use the second card at all, but it'd be too easy to convince a naive shopper that 2 cards equals twice the power, right? That's just not the case, though. I assume sellers like this person are probably banking on that logic, though. And what the heck's up with the $1,300 list price? Okay, you're saying each GTX 1080 was $650? 2 GTX 1080s, AIB or not, expect to pay around $300 to $350 each. And $350 is on the high end, especially for like the more expensive AIBs. Now, the remaining items in this list are rather boring. Not gonna spend too much time here. He's got an H115i for $140 and RM1000X for, what is that, same price, about $140. It's a PSU. Custom sleeve cables, Samsung NVMe for, what? $480? Okay, yeah, these are definitely dated prices. $350 currently for a 1TB Pro, but there are significantly cheaper options than that. I mean, if you're willing to look elsewhere other than Samsung, I mean, you can get them for under $200, like this one here from Silicon Power. Still 1TB, blazing fast, and packed with great user feedback. Now, obviously, it would be unfair to quote a different component than the one listed in the ad, but it goes to show that there are often smarter buys out there than the ones that happen to be in the PC that you're looking at in a used site. I don't know, a resale site like Craigslist or Facebook, a marketplace, an e-marketplace resale site. What do you call them? I don't know. And so you shouldn't feel compelled to pay a premium price for a premium product that performs nearly the same as another at half the cost. It's one of the perks of building yourself. You get to make those decisions with your budget. Some swear by brands like Samsung, and that's totally fine. They have great migration software as well, but if you ask me, these cheaper NVMEs will do just fine. And I certainly wouldn't pay anywhere near $500 for 1TB of NVMe storage in 2020. Heck, even ultra-fast Gen 4 NVMEs are around $200 for 1TB. This is a heck of a deal from Gigabyte, by the way. So this guy's living in an alternate universe if he thinks he's getting anywhere near this for an older Samsung drive. Lastly, I want to skip down here to the bottom where he's got 2 odd listings. The first is Windows 10 Pro. I guess this isn't very odd. It's actually pretty prevalent in ads like these. He says it's on a flash drive, so I'm assuming it's a bootable USB. And he says he paid $200 for it. And like I've said before, resellers love to throw this number out there in an attempt to grab more cash or justify a higher asking price. Look, if he's got proof that he bought a key from Newegg or whatever, fine. But still, I'd recommend you buy an ultra cheap key, an OEM or a volume key from a site like our sponsor, or even eBay if you trust random listings. I prefer not to promote those just because you never really know who you're gonna deal with. And look, if you can handle a watermark, you don't need to activate at all to enjoy the full potential of Windows 10. Performance doesn't change either way. So you have options, that's my point, right? And you shouldn't feel as though paying over $100 for a freaking retail key is the only viable option, especially in the used market. And this $130 friggin' Microsoft Office mention, it's just, come on, dude, really? Like, you gotta pump your listing with crap like this to prop up the list price? I mean, people should be paying for the hardware, right? How do we even know you haven't already activated this key? And you mentioned one PC, right? But does that mean that the key's linked to this system's hardware? Does you activating it on your account now render it useless? Too many questions, too many variables. Just stick to hardware on this one. It's much simpler and you can usually verify that the thing works right away. Don't try and bundle it with overvalued and frankly old software. What would I pay for this listing? Well, used parts values on eBay suggest somewhere in the $1,500 to $1,800 ballpark, but I could build a very similar performing system for quite a bit less than that. And that's the nature of technology. Again, switching to Ryzen would save several $100 at little to no expense. Heck, you could even build like an 8-core Intel system and probably squeeze in something like an RTX 2060 or 70 in this $1,500 to $1,800 price range. I haven't done it, but I'm sure it's possible. We've put together systems very similar to this in the past with similar budgets. And also, choosing to forego 2 older Pascal cards, which I still think are great in their own right, to a single Turing or Navi card for $400 to $500 would also benefit the end user and maximize utilization. So, at the end of the day, I've got no problem with this computer's presentation. I mean, it's a very clean build, right? Color coordinated, cable managed. It's pretty sexy. And even the back is pretty clean, but I don't know. I have no problem with the pictures, right? He's got plenty of pictures. This is how I would recommend you take them. But the seller comes across a bit standoffish up front, right? With the all caps stuff. Don't do that, okay? Just ignore the people fishing for like crazy deals. If they pitch you an insanely low offer, just don't bother. Just block them, leave them alone. And $2,800, I mean, that's completely unwarranted. The individual who sent this ad said it was previously listed for much higher than that, like $3,800. I'm good. I'm glad the price has come down. No one should buy this for $3,800, let alone $2,800. I mean, that's insane. Again, I could build you a significantly better system for $2,800. And that's really all I have for this one. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Consider subscribing. Leave feedback down below. My name's Greg. Thanks for cringing with me.